empty gaze. Voices echo the past now sleeping, infuse my mind with forgotten face. Why now should my thoughts confuse me with memory pictures of that riverside, still rich in colour and rustic beauty, yet not so pretty as the village that died.
Well, Munkleburn, people who don't know, there was a dirt track road down from Westwood, from Low Westwood, and people used to say, if you were getting off the bus, you'd see Westwood stores. There was the Co-op at the top of the bank. So that was a dirt track that came down into Munkleburn.
There was no proper road in the village. It was just a cart track, and from the Blackhole Mill side, the Green Bridge you call that, and the Swing Bridge, which is no longer there, I gather. And there was a ford next to the chapel, which horse-drawn vehicles could go over, because if they didn't use the ford, they had to go up the Store Bank, along to Hampsley, down Hampsley Bank, then to the Blackhole Mill, where they could be over in a matter of seconds, over the ford, and that went to Beach Grove and Fife Terrace.
That old people's home you can see up there was actually the Co-op stores. They used to supply the village with all their needs. You could buy even your school clothing, anything you wanted, meat and everything. Used to be butchers further down. And you used to come down the Store Bank, the road used to sweep round here in front of the village. And we used to have a shop, a Millie's shop, which is over there, which sells all anybody's needs, you know. Basically at that time, if you didn't grow it in your garden, you didn't eat it. So there was allotments and everybody grew whatever, like tatties, cabbages, the general stuff, you know. As I say, the shop was there. There was a chapel here at the bottom of Grasmere Street, which was my street. I live at number 5 Grasmere Street. And you had the chapel, you had 20 houses at Grasmere Street, just down from the Swing Bridge. You had Thirlmere Street next to that, and then Thirlmere Street, and then Buttermere Street, and then another Buttermere Street, and then Down Street along the top. And over where that gate is over there, we used to have some swings. There was 3 swings. We used to play on there as kids.
The streets nearer the river were the only ones that had gardens, and there were bigger houses than the rest of them in Munkleburn. They had actually 2 rooms downstairs. The rest of us only had 1. There was a little playground behind me where the steppy stones were, and the most fabulous park. Fabulous managed park by a man called Wally Adams. It was magnificent.
That was a Swing Bridge we all went across. We went across that every day to go to school, even when I used to climb over there and go down that to Blackhole Mill and up the valley to Chapel. In the winter '63, we had a really, really bad winter, and it was actually covered in snow, where the whole place was actually covered in snow. There was that much snow. And I remember going to school one Monday morning, me and my mate called Chris Gainford and a lad called Edward Beckwith. And Chris was in the front, and we got to about 2 metres off the edge of the bridge. And during the night, somebody had pinched some of the planks of the bridge off, and he went through the bridge into the river. He was just walking in front of me, and then suddenly he's gone straight into the river. But luckily, the river was frozen solid, and he didn't really hurt himself. He got a day off school, but he didn't hurt himself.
It was great. We were in there was a few streets, and the first street was 6 houses, and we were the number 2 in that short street. We didn't have a hot water system. We had an outside toilet. It sounds all a bit rough, but we were never cold, we were never hungry.
It was just a place where it was great to grow up. Everybody knew everybody. Yeah, you could leave your door open. There was you had no to pinch, to be honest, because nobody had any money. You know, it was just one of them times. It was a bit like have you ever heard of a film from the early 20s called How Green Was My Valley? It was a bit like that, you know. Yeah. I mean, so you could walk down my street at Grasmere Street. By the time you got to the bottom, you could get a meal. Because all the baking used to be on the wall. There was like scones, pies of all descriptions, and like soups and stuff like that. And
there were streets of houses, short windows with bright polished smiles, musical names, warm and soothing, enamelled on rose, proud trophies and song. Derwent, Grasmere.
In hindsight, it was probably quite hard because we didn't have baths, we had outside toilets, we had coal delivered because most of the men were miners and you had to shovel it in when it came into your coal house. But people who couldn't do these things were helped by neighbours.
Well, we never had very little money, but very, very little money. As I say, payday was a Friday and everybody was ready, we'll say on the Wednesday, for Friday coming, like. And you got wholesome food, like. There was, you know, you weren't fed any rubbish and out like that. Yeah. But times were hard, like, because I think they had no other option. I mean, you worked on the dark nights, for example. My father went out in the dark in the morning, and he came back, it was dark.
So I remember, it doesn't matter how dirty you came in from work in my older days, you used to have this tin pot would hold half a gallon or something, I suppose. You used to get a dip of hot water, carry that into the Belfast thing, and that was how you tried to get yourself clean them days. And then in my young courting days, obviously you were getting washed and changed. And everybody wore white shirts them days, so you were having to put a white shirt on, tie, and off out doing your courting or drinks with the lads, whatever it was. And then if you wanted a bath, when you came in at 11 o'clock at night, you could have a bath in front of the fire if you wanted. You didn't really need one then, but I mean, that was the only time you had a chance. And that was a tin bath that hung in the yard, long tin bath, oval. You would put that down and fill it. And of course that's where my dad got all the coal dust washed off him every day he came in from the pit.
You were all the same. You had your one thought, but you were all miners' sons and you didn't have very much. So you knew what the fella next door was going through.
Not much trouble, not much trouble. Right through my childhood, school days, teenage years, I never heard of anyone in the village getting into trouble. Not a heap of the bother do I remember in Milkleburn. And there was a lot of us, there was a lot of kids, you know, there was a lot of big families. It was I think it was a good place.
Derwent, Grasmere, Clottermere, Thelmere,
The steep barnyard walls, turning dream hamlet, miners' birds, dripped pools of black lace, and cooked in tins, new bread cooling. How welcome still, how welcome still, how welcome still.
My mum did nothing, but she did everything. She never left the house much. She used to work as a cook, so we got well fed.
There was a lot of women's groups, ladies' club. There was lots and lots of ladies' clubs went on, and there were a lot of women attended, presumably because they didn't go out and work and didn't have the same ability to have friendships as the men did.
But if anybody was ill, like my grandmother, she was the layer out. If anybody died, you know, Catty Dodds, Katie, when her man died, my grandmother laid him out and I had to touch his brow like that so he wouldn't haunt us, you know. That was it. And my grandmother, she was the layer out of bodies like.
Some of the families had massive families, you know. Some of them had 14 kids, man. And only 2 bedrooms and all, you know. Used to be, you know, it was maybe a dozen in a bed at times, like 6 on the top and 6 on the bottom. You were in trouble if you got a bed wet, I mean. You had to be in the shower end.
Now, I never went on a proper holiday with my mum and dad. In them days, they would have 1 week's holiday when the pit closed. And someone in the village would organise trip buses just for the day. And there would be, I'm guessing, somewhere 5, 6 or 7 buses used to turn up. Didn't come down the village, as I said. Nobody liked to go up and down that. They would line up on the top road by the co-op. And quite often, there was the one from Robson's with a wooden seater bus. The ones that shaped like the park benches, the seats like that. And they used to put all the kids in that bus. And we'll go off to places like Redcar, even to South Shields, maybe, you know, Whitley Bay. And we'd have just 4 or 5 trips, day trips. And one thing that somebody organised, which was good fun, is the kids' bus would set off last, but it would arrive first. Because the big cheers as we overtook the buses with all the adults in. I remember them. I remember the days.
Derwent, grass me, butter me, and thou me. Derwent, grass me, butter me, and thou me. Why were they condemned? Memories say wrong. Derwent.
My gran was the last person to leave. She wouldn't go. She was offered a prefab at Hampstead, and she wasn't going to live in a prefab. She wanted a brick house or nothing. So she stuck to her guns and was there a long time after the rest of the houses were demolished. And I think she was quite frightened, actually, because she was the only house left down there.
The Mrs. Lonsdale at the end refused to move. She was the last house pulled down because she wouldn't move. You were given a choice to either move to Chopwell, Hampstead, Ebchester, Consett. It was your choice where you wanted to go, you know, and to get rid of you, basically. And some people were happy to go and others weren't because you got better style of housing. So some people went from here to Ebchester where you had indoor toilets and baths. You'd never seen out like that, you know. You had a tin bath. You got bathed once on a Friday night if you were lucky. It was once a fortnight for me, and you know what I mean. But it was just the way it was. You wouldn't want to live in these houses now. They were like stables, to be honest. But it was just the atmosphere, the place. It was that time, you know. When you're a child, you don't matter. You know, these things don't matter. Outside toilet doesn't matter. Just the time. It's the time that's gone, long gone now.
There's not much you could do with it. You know, the people were like my mum. My mum was proud of her house. She would make the best of it. But you couldn't very well put extensions on for bathrooms and this sort of thing, you know.
Very sad, because it was a community and it was dispersed quite far and wide. People went to Chopwell, people went to Hampstead, Ebchester, Consett, and the whole community disintegrated.
I know when I came on my last leave in 1949, I stood on the store bank. It was a beautiful moonlight night, and the chapel were out singing hymns, and I stood like into the stars. I get a bit carried away. Jean says, "Oh, you're away. I'm away again," you know. And the starlight, and what a most beautiful night it was, lad. And they were singing "Silent Night," and I was coming on my last leave.
You'd be surprised how many people's ashes are spread down here that's died from here. You know, I know quite a few that's got ashes here and over the river as well. Probably mine's going here when it comes to that day.
Days of young joy I can remember. Cable Bridge where laughing girls we did swing. The chapel on weekdays quite not empty. Sundays their blessing those people would sing. Again as my eye gather peaceful green comfort, I feel a yearning for those days to return. Derwent to Christ at his funeral, and Bethel near, now smile for me at Old Mill.